Chapter 18, All Roads Lead to Rome, 1. Padong. With that, Padong landed on his plump belly. Something that came in between his belly and the ground cracked and crunched mercilessly. Crunch. The walnut shell cracked. Padong brightly smiled as he took out the nuts from the crushed shell. Padong? Podudong. Padong. Tastes good? Lloyd asked. Padong. Then the hamster stuck the walnuts into his mouth at lightning speed. Lloyd chuckled as he saw him do so. Want another one? Padong. Want me to break the shells for you? Padong? Podudong. Okay, hold on for a second. Lloyd grabbed the walnut with his right hand. Then he raised his left hand and used the Azrahan core technique. Phew. His heart beat in accordance with his breathing. The beating created a flow of energy into his left hand. Lloyd absorbed the energy, which was the natural mana that was floating in the air. Oh, it works. Of course, the power wasn't much. He could merely draw a tiny portion of the mana floating in the air. Not to mention, he could only create a single circle as he was just getting the hang of the Azrahan core technique. But that was enough for him. Swish! Lloyd transferred the strength of mana pulled into the left hand to the outer part of his heart and had it rotated. The mana amplified as it rotated. Once it was done, Lloyd transferred the mana to his right hand. He clenched his right hand to crush the walnut. Ah! Ack! Crack! The hard walnut shell crushed in his hand. Whoa! It worked! I cracked the walnut with my bare hand. This feat was unimaginable in the past. Basking in the success, Lloyd gave the walnut to Padong. Here, take them. Padong. Are you happy? Podudong. Yes, me too. Lloyd felt that he was above the average man in physical ability now. He felt relieved by the realization. This world is a world of swords and knives. Lloyd understood that he wasn't in South Korea anymore. Dangers lingered everywhere. Just outside the fiefdom, bandits as big and giant as Dane Johnson were happy to stab anyone in sight. And so, he knew what his life would be like if he didn't at least have basic self-defense skills. I can die anytime. No, thank you. Lloyd took relief that he'd learned the Azrahan core technique from Javier. Just then. Knock knock. There was someone at his bedroom door. Master Lloyd. Are you inside? The voice was distinctively cynical in tone. Javier. Lloyd chuckled. He rose from the bed and opened the door. And just as he expected, Javier was standing at the door. Speak of the devil. Come on in. Were you talking about me? Javier asked. Don't worry about it. So, did you do what I asked? Lloyd asked. I'm coming from making the report to the Lord. Yeah? Yes. What did the Baron say? Are you asking if he mentioned anything special? Javier asked. Yeah. He did. What did he say? Asked Lloyd. He wished Sir Newman good luck. He's going to need it, especially right now, stated Lloyd nonchalantly. Sir Newman. Lloyd smirked as he thought about him. The events that took place in the past few days replayed in his head. The day of the duel when he exposed Sir Newman to everybody. He has luck on his side, or maybe not this time. Sir Newman didn't die. He was a tough, tenacious man who'd survived the crushing weight of the gigantic hamster Padong. But the price of his survival was despairing. Dozens of bones broke all throughout his body. The sight was a gory one. Everyone gasped as they found Sir Newman looking much like a half-dried squid in a seafood market. When Sir Newman was taken to the doctor, he shook his head in serious pity. Then man is better off dead. Even if he receives the favor of the heavens and fully recovers, he won't ever have a normal life. He won't be able to walk nor stand up. He will spend his entire life in bed, having someone feed him porridge he can barely swallow. The doctor's diagnosis was despairing for Sir Newman. He had barely survived with the treatment he received in the past few days. And today, he was kicked out of the fiefdom for good. Oh, well, he won't die right away given that he got banished along with his family, Lloyd said. I think so, too. There were others who got banished as well. Sir Ulrich and Conti, who were mentored under Sir Newman, got kicked out of the fiefdom. On top of that, both of them had their tendons slashed in on of their hands and legs. They won't ever be able to pick up a sword again. I kind of feel bad for them. However, the order has been established in the fiefdom, so I was successful. The two were going to betray the fiefdom, according to the novel anyway. They would only continue to harm the barony. And it was obvious they would never change no matter how many chances they received. So Lloyd wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible, and today, he got what he wanted. Lloyd felt good. So, you've become the vice commander of the knights. Now, Sir Azrahan? How are you feeling? Lloyd asked with a smile. I do not feel anything in particular, Javier replied. Really? Yes. How so? Because I'm just one of the 2 knights left in the fiefdom, including Sir Bayan, Javier stated coolly. You must be lonely then, I suppose? TSK. I see. You are bored and lonely because you don't have any friends. That's what's happening, Lloyd concluded. That's obviously. What's happening, Lloyd interrupted, I know. Oh, well. What can you do? That's life. Master Lloyd. What? Are you just going to glare at me? You have something to tell me? Lloyd asked. Lloyd figured that he had something to say. And unsurprisingly, Javier nodded. Yes. I have a question to ask. What is it? It's about the hamster. Javier pointed at Padong, who was eating the pieces of walnut on top of the desk. Javier's expression turned grave, and his gaze sharpened. Lloyd became slightly nervous at the sight. He wondered what Javier wanted to ask with such a grave expression on his face. What is it? Is he suspicious of my summon magic? Lloyd suspected that might be it. It was a fully plausible situation. Right, though I purposefully carried the basic summoning book with me for a whole month, that won't be enough to clear me of all suspicions. The thing was, summon magic was still magic. So unless he was born a genius, it made no sense that he could summon something with just a month of self-studying. Still, what else can I do? He's not going to believe me even if I honestly tell him about the RP system and random summon game. So I might as well just insist. Lloyd decided that he should insist that he had studied magic all by himself. Lloyd waited for Javier to ask. Javier, who was waffling with a serious expression, finally spoke. What should I call him? What? Lloyd asked in a daze. I'm curious what his name is. Wait, you asking for his name? Yes. That's all you wanted to know? Lloyd's voice dripped with surprise. Yes. It is your summon. Oh, you mean you wanted to call him by his name because you'll be seeing him a lot? Lloyd asked again. Yes, Javier clarified. Then why did you act all serious about it? Lloyd grumbled. Excuse me? Javier innocently looked at Lloyd. Phew. Never mind. His name is Padong. That's his name. Padong? MHM. That is a bit of a shabby name for his gigantic size. I named it myself. Come to think of it again, everyone knows a shabby name is perfect for making your opponents put their guards down. You chose the best name for him. Are you sure? You don't have to lie when you don't mean it. Anyway. I didn't name it. It was his name from the beginning. So what should I call him? Anything you like. I understand. Sir Padong? Javier stooped down to meet Padong eye to eye. Padong, who was chewing the walnut, lifted his head. Padong? Javier stooped down to meet Padong eye to eye. Padong, who was chewing the walnut, lifted his head. Padong? My name is Javier Azrahan. I am the knight who protects Master Lloyd. Nice to meet you. Padong. Javier's long fingers interlocked with Padong's short front legs to shake hands. Lloyd yawned. Done introducing each other? Yes. Shall we head out? I was actually waiting for you. I have some business to take care of, Lloyd stated. Me? You're my guard and way stronger than me. That is. Forget it. Everyone tries to hide their true ability to some degree. Right? Javier flinched. Lloyd chuckled. Javier was already a high-level sword expert. At first, Lloyd thought he simply failed to notice his true powers because that was how it was described in The Knight of Blood and Iron. But after spending many days with his knight, Lloyd noticed something different from the novel. The more Lloyd spent time with Javier, bickering with him and learning the ways around the sword, the more evident it became to Lloyd. Javier knew his level of skill very well. He was simply hiding it. Lloyd hadn't figured out the reason yet, but he could guess. Everyone will go berserk if they find out that the youngest knight is already close to becoming a sword master. Sir Newman and other high-level knights would be green with envy, not to mention the countless offers that would come from nearby feudal lords to bring him into their fiefdom. Such bothersome efforts would surely leave the Frontier barony in tatters. It's his way of preventing that chaos from happening and staying loyal to the Baron. Lloyd thought highly of his knight, who had both skill and character. Anyway, let's head out. The sun will be setting soon. Lloyd sprang to his feet. As expected, Javier looked relieved by that. Lloyd figured that Javier didn't wish to continue talking about this subject. It was the same for him as well. Your secret is safe with me. So don't bring up anything about my bayonet exercise. Just keep any questions you might have to yourself. If there was a genius in sword fighting, it was Javier. So it only made sense that he had recognized the bayonet exercise, which held a long history. I'm sure he already noticed that I didn't invent this exercise since I'm just a novice. The thing with martial arts and sports is that one sees only as far as one's knowledge goes, Lloyd thought to himself. Boxing and UFC were his best examples. Boxing games were an absolute bore when he watched them without any knowledge of the sport. MMA games were even worse, the athletes did nothing but wrestle against each other on the floor. But when he started learning boxing and jiu-jitsu in high school and college, things started to change. A boxing game no longer put him to sleep. The MMA games that used to just look like two people rolling around on the floor turned out to be an exciting fight that pumped his adrenaline. It was because people only looked for what they knew. As such, it went without saying for Javier, the greatest genius in sword fighting of all time. He, of course, had already figured out most of the characteristics of the bayonet exercise. Yeah, I can't avoid everything. But don't do anything more than that. Stay quiet, and I'll do the same for you. Lloyd looked at him in the eyes meaningfully. It seemed like Javier understood him. Javier quietly stood up. Let's go. I will escort you. So he and Javier left the bedroom. They went out of their estate. They met several people as they walked. And Lloyd noticed the change in their reactions. A long time ago, they used to turn back and scurry away as soon as they met him on the street. They hung their heads down because they were scared of meeting him in the eyes. But that wasn't the case anymore. A woman smiled and greeted him. She was the one who trembled in front of him on the first day Suho possessed Lloyd's body. She wasn't alone. Later, another farmer walked over to him and asked him with a smile, "Young master, excuse me. When do you think you can start the heated flooring construction in my house?" Lloyd recognized him very well. The farmer's eyes were glimmering right now, but when he first met him, the farmer was pale as snow. Rubbing his chin, Lloyd said, "I can't remember very well. Where was your house?" "It's left to the rock that stands at the entrance of Oak Tree Woods," the farmer replied. "Oh, there. Let's see. The contract says that you have 2 more houses ahead of yours. So when can I expect it to start?" "At this rate, probably around 2 more weeks, so wait a little longer. It's springtime anyway." "But the wind is still cold," the farmer explained. "Okay, do you want me to hug you? Maybe that will warm you up." "And no, that's not it. Don't like that, do you? Good. I hate it too. I'm getting goosebumps, Lloyd replied. Anyway, I'll be in your care, young master. All right, and don't forget to pay, Lloyd reminded him. Of course. Okay. Now, can you let go of my hands? Lloyd resumed walking after tearing the farmer away from him. Phew. I feel so popular these days. Ever since a few days ago, the villagers started to look at him in a different light. Look at them. Just look at their beady eyes. It's like I've become a player who carries the entire game till victory, and my teammates are rooting for me. Suddenly, a bitter smile escaped him. Lloyd knew why they were looking at him like that. But still, he wanted to hear it from someone else. Hey! He casually called Javier beside him. What's the deal with them? They used to hate me so blatantly before. Well, that was true in the past, Javier explained. Was? In the past? Yes. Then what about now? Javier replied as though he was reading a text. It's a birth of a capable man. A capable man? You defeated the senior knight of the fiefdom with just a month of training. It would obviously appear impressive since they don't know about the Azrahan core technique. Plus, you exposed his schemes to the public and did the summon magic that shocked everyone in the audience. It does sound kind of cool when you say it like that. In short, I'm a truly amazing person who's well versed in sword fighting and summon magic, right? Yes. Javier nodded. If you think in their shoes, you would easily see why they welcome your change with open arms. You became a completely different person from a good-for-nothing drunkard who caused trouble daily to an unbelievably capable man. Lloyd was speechless. Their future leader has become a talented, skillful individual, no longer a hopeless scumbag. Surely you understand why they cheer over your change, Javier concluded. Hey, that's a compliment, right? Lloyd asked suspiciously. Yes, it is. You know, it's quite weighty for a compliment. What do you mean by that? Your words came at me with a speed of at least 105 miles per hour, Lloyd added. 105 miles per hour? Oh, come on. It means that my heart exploded from your compliment. You killer. Javier simply stared at him. His expression showed confusion over the nonsense he'd just heard. But Lloyd noticed how even his dazed countenance resembled a beautiful painting that required untold hours to finish, elegant and perfect. Must be nice to be good-looking. This bastard is a good fighter, well-mannered, and on top of everything, handsome too. Lloyd suddenly spoke like was talking to his mother's friend's son, who he had never met but was constantly compared to. What are you looking at? Move. Let me do my business. Business? From here to there. Lloyd pointed to the ground with his fingers. He was pointing to the entrance of the estate entrance to the foot of the eastern mountain. Lloyd was using the surveying and design skills as he gazed at the area. He observed the geography and gathered the data points. Afterward, he visualized a blueprint of the building he wished to build. The imaginary representation of the building allowed him a glimpse of the future of this area. All roads lead to Rome. This is the first time you heard about it, right? Lloyd grinned, looking back at Javier. Of course, Javier didn't know the meaning behind that smile. He also didn't know that this area would be used to build a paved road that would become key to the fiefdom's development and that in the future, it would lead the barony to become the primary center for travel in the kingdom. That was until Lloyd spoke. As he heard his young master, Javier was granted a glimpse of the bright future of the fiefdom.